Hi, I'm Sean Paul. We are broadcasting live from Hollywood, and we are conducting an operation to take Hollywood back from the, let's just call them crazies that have dominated the industry for a long time. So in that vein, we are going to have weekly interviews with conservative voices in our community, and my first guest today to start that off is Stephen Davis, the Real MAGA Hulk. And yes, sir, I'm really excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Yes, indeed.
So I want to hear, and I think everyone wants to hear, like your story, your journey, where you started off, and what kind of made you become conservative. Because I think, as we've discussed, liberalism is sort of the default political ideology that everyone is given when they're young.
Oh, yeah.
Especially like in school now, it seems like it's indoctrinated. So what woke you up?
My. Well, like you said, default Democrat. That's usually how it starts, And, but it's kind of weird because within the black community, it seems to be where we start off conservative. The black community typically is conservative, and somewhere along the way, the wires get crossed and things get switched up, and all of a sudden we find ourselves on the Democrat side of life, on the liberal side with liberal ideologies. So that's what happened with me. Definitely, my upbringing was very much so beware of the white man. You got to work 2 times as hard to get anywhere in life. Those type of ideologies and sentiments. Very victim mentality oriented, right? So as you go throughout life, you start looking at things in such a way, and it does interrupt and interfere with your different goals and dreams and aspirations and things of that sort, because whenever you fail, it's always the white guy's fault, and if you succeed, it was all my fault. So it kind of messes with your mind a bit. So I know that in 2016 there was that whole election with President Trump and Hillary, and I knew that I wasn't going to support Hillary because, I seen the Benghazi situation,
Right.
and that I was like, there's no way I can support this person. But I was told that President Trump was a racist, which I was a little iffy about because I was so confused. And I think that confusion kind of led to me wanting to know more. So I was told, he's this vicious racist. He's this Nazi, white supremacist. Wait a minute though. In the 1990s, everyone loved Trump.
Yep.
Everyone.
Right.
They made songs about him. Everyone wanted to take their pictures with him. All these people within the black community, the older generation,
Right.
they revered him. They wanted to be the celebrities. Everybody in crowd. They wanted to be in his circle.
He was the embodiment of the American dream.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He surely was. I mean,
That's how the media saw him.
Exactly.
He had all those cameos, even Home Alone 2.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. They couldn't get enough of this man.
Oh, speaking
This
of
man-
Trump,
Oh, yeah, There it is. Bada boom, bada bam, ba bam. That's better.
he's going to win. Get ready for it.
Yes, indeed. So in the 2000s, hit TV show, The
Right.
Apprentice, right?
Yeah.
I was big in the WWE back in the day, and he would come out and guest star when he was going up against Vince McMahon, and the crowd went
that's right. I forgot
crazy.
about
You,
that.
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, the crowd went crazy. The crowd couldn't get enough of this man. Black people, white people, Asian, Hispanic, all cheered their heads off for this man, right? So now this guy is labeled as a vicious racist when everyone loved him. So I'm trying to understand what's going on here.
Okay.
So I started doing my research, and I was like, well, at least I can find out what's going on so I can go ahead and get this information and debate Trump supporters. Right? I can debate Trump supporters on all these different facts. He's a racist because this, that, and the other. He's the worst thing for America because this, that, and the other. And I started doing my research, and I was like, okay, I agree with that. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, what? I like this guy. Wait a minute.
Okay, yeah.
So the whole switch came, and I was like, okay, this guy, the media's lying to me first and foremost, and that's what really pissed me off, is to find out that I've been duped
Yep.
all this time. What else have they lied to me about?
Yep.
So I started doing that, digging in that, and as I kept digging, I started seeing that President Trump was the best for this country, and I started seeing that the media is nothing but a bunch of liars and manipulators and full of deceit and trickery and all that type of stuff. So I was like, you know what? my conservative values. I'm getting back to that, and I'm all for Trump now.
When you're talking about that, and you say that like black people tend to be more conservative in their values, are you talking about kind of because like the Christian value system?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so where do you feel like the voices bleed in and start taking kind of that? Because I mean, let's think about what that is. That's being pro-family.
Yes, sir.
That's being like pro-life.
Yes, sir.
That's being like the right to like self-defense and like the need to protect the innocent, right?
You got it.
And so and that like you should be able to bear the fruits of your labor.
Yes.
And I believe that that the idea from Christianity is that God created this earth to give us abundance.
You got it.
And gave us dominion over it, not
Yes,
to be
sir.
slaves to some system. And so my question is, where are those voices that you talk about coming from? Is that from the education system? Is that from within your own community? Where does that bleed in?
Well, I think it's I think it's a little bit of both. Honestly, the educational system is absolutely 100% liberalized.
It is,
as
yeah.
we all know. We know the education system is liberalized. Also within the black family, though, due to decades of welfare and things of that nature, we've looked at the Democrat Party as the benevolent ones. They're giving us free stuff.
Yeah.
They're the ones that, hey, you need to help out? Here, have some money, have some WIC, have some food stamps, have this, have that. Hey, they're the nice ones. This other party is telling us to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, right? This party's giving us free stuff. And at the end of the day, hey, who's going to say no to free stuff?
Well, but that's a tricky, slippery slope, right?
Very.
Because like whoever feeds you becomes your master.
You got
right?
it.
And so, do you think that they are intentionally like trying to break up black families in the black community by incentivizing? Because like, isn't it true that if you're married, then you don't get as much child welfare?
You got it.
And is that why the whole fatherless family thing has occurred?
You got it. 100%.
Which then makes a lot of black men, like not have father figures, and so then the incarceration rates. I mean, I think the numbers directly reflect that. Unfortunately, you can tell me, but like, do you think fatherlessness is like a big component of it?
That is the biggest component of it.
Okay.
The 100%. This is the 100% unmitigated truth when it comes to the black community. Father absence has been the number one cause of delinquency when it comes to minors, when it comes to the kids growing up, because you're going to gravitate to some type of father figure, whether it be the thugs on your block, right, who put money into your pocket and say, hey, I understand you don't have, your mom's always at work trying to put food on the table, right? Come over here, Junior. Hey, here's a little bit of money, right? So you see that as a father figure now. You gravitate towards that because that's the only father figure you see.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's absolutely despicable. And these gangbangers, these gangsters know what they're doing. They 100% know what they're doing. So they take advantage of the father absence. And you bring
because they don't have a father figure, so they bring them into that. Oh, that's
you
horrible.
bring them into that fold. And it's a disgusting, despicable cycle because it just continues like that. And it's really disgusting because the Democrat Party knows, like you said, if there's going to be people that are without a father or without some type of leadership, you are automatically going to crave it. You're going to find it in something. Yeah. So they find it from the Democrat Party, from the people that are giving you these handouts. And now you crave big government. You crave big government because the bigger the government, the more handouts you get. So here on the Republican Party, why do we want that? That's small government. I don't want small government. I like my handouts. It's disgusting what's going on.
Yeah, but I think that's what people don't understand is because we're like, the conservative side basically wants people to be armed and be able to stand up for their rights and have nobody take them away.
You got it.
They want you to be able to have no cap on your wealth, right? And for your labor to generate wealth, as opposed to always being a slave to having to work and going hand to mouth. Because when that is your situation, you're not really free. You know what I mean?
No, not at all.
And so it's like the only true way to freedom is to have some sort of capital that you have, like business ownership, savings that you live off of, etc. And that is the ideal, I think, of conservatism. Yeah. So. But what's funny is it seems like that we're being labeled as like the people that are trying to keep that from you. My question is, do you think, because I do, I'll just be honest, like I am very suspicious that I think that like Democratic leaders, maybe not always, but now are actually racist. Yeah. And that they, I think Planned Parenthood was started by eugenicists.
You got it, Margaret Sanger.
and that we're being demonized when it's like we're the ones that want to save you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's the the Democrat Party has been steeped in racism. Their past, they're in the present, right? From past to present, I mean, the party of segregation, the party of KKK, Jim Crow, segregation, slavery. They're the party of all that. You fast forward to the a number of decades, and now you have a situation where they introduce welfare into the family, break up the black home, and now you're incentivized to get the father out the home so they can be the woman can be married to the government as opposed to the man.
Yep.
Right? And then you fast forward and you got a situation now where Joe Biden's blatantly telling people like me that if I don't vote for him, if I'm not going to be useful to him to bludgeon his political opponent, then I ain't black.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean,
how do you feel about that?
It's unbelievable. You want to talk about racism, right? The Democrat Party is racist. They openly defended the man who said that if you don't vote for me, then you ain't black. They defended that.
Yeah, so it's like their ideology changes basically when it's convenient to them.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that there is sort of this agenda, and they basically want, it's sort of like a 1984 world where they want the human being versus the state. And the state is your parent. It's your father figure. You're dependent on them for food, for everything. You can't go against them. You snitch on your neighbor just to show what a good citizen you are. In the end, you can't even escape it. You'll probably be done away with anyway.
You got it.
And the father, removing the father, they're supposed to protect and provide.
Yes.
And so what they've done, and it's really perverted, they've removed the protection and they've replaced the provider with the state. And I mean, do you think that the provisions they are giving is really a life to like look up to and to want to live?
It's unsustainable. It's really not sustainable. You look at these people who are in abject poverty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 100%. And they're living paycheck to paycheck, but this is the life that they know. They've been living this way for 10, 20. They've seen their parents live this way, right? So it's generation after generation of poverty, welfare, poverty, welfare. And this is what they know. And it works.
Yeah.
It works, there's always food on the table at the end of the day. We're not excelling,
right?
But we're not dying of starvation. So hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
So then the incentive is sort of to like then try to demand more of like let's get more handouts.
Yes.
Let's encourage this sort of socialism more.
You got it. It's not let me try to get myself, as we always say on the Republican side, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It's none of that. It's just let me see what else I can squeeze out the government. Let me see what else, what other money and benefits I can squeeze out the government, and that's all it becomes.
Yep.
And it's really sickening. There's no way you can really generate any type of wealth or any generational wealth doing that.
So what kind of world do you foresee that you want, like instead of that, like if you could see like point the way of like what is a better way, what would you like for your community want to create?
I would, first of all, one thing I would do is get away from welfare. All right, we need to get the crutch out from underneath the black community.
Okay.
The only way we can succeed is if we get this. You think about a kid learning how to ride a bike. If they constantly ride this bike with the training wheels on,
they'll never
fully learn. Exactly, and they'll never excel at being able to be a proficient bike rider. So we need to get rid of those training wheels. And some people are going to fail, but that's life. Life is about successes and failures, and when you fail, you figure out a way to succeed. That's what life used to be. Now it's like if you fail, we're going to keep patting you on the behind and say it's okay, it's not your fault, it's everyone else's fault but yourself, and you're just a victim, you poor victim, pat you on the head again and give you some more handouts. That's what it is. We need to get away from that. We need to stop incentivizing mediocre thinking and mediocre living. So we need to get away from the welfare system, and we need to have more community-based programs to be able to take care of people, because that's what it used to be. It used to be where churches, you can go to churches and churches would take care of you, if you needed help. And it made it more personal. When you're taking money from the government, it's not that personal. It's just like, hey, I'm getting free money. But when you're beholden to somebody and you're looking that person in the eye as they give you money, you feel more responsible for the money that you have, and you have to make good decisions and choices. So we need to get rid of welfare. We need to rely on churches and other organizations like that to be able to take care of those who are in poverty. And we need to incentivize that and prop that up and promote that way of living, as opposed to just being married to the government for the rest of your life.
Notice how they've tied up the ability of churches to do that at the same time. So that is something we need to fight back on.
Yes, sir.
Because I mean, like they literally like arrested pastors for feeding the homeless now.
Yeah.
That just seems like a crime against humanity. Which church do you go to, by the way, when the world is working?
When it's actually working,
Yeah.
I go to Abundant Living High Desert in Victorville.
Nice.
Hesperia, sorry. Lord have mercy.
You like it?
I love it. I love it. You know, and our pastor is all about those type of programs, you know, feeding the homeless, you know, reaching out to those who are in the prison systems, providing them rides home, you know, and things of that nature. It's an amazing church, and that's what we're supposed to be doing as the body of Christ in the first place.
I feel like a lot of churches do that because we really realize that, like, you know, people need forgiveness, and when you go into jail, like, you know, you need to actually be able to learn a new way, and that is kind of lacking in our system. And what I've sort of noticed that there's this whole thing, you know, ever since you know, Floyd was killed horrifically, there's this whole idea of like get rid of the police, right? But I do feel, even as a conservative, like we need reform.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that
absolutely.
especially our the criminal justice system, I do think it's like, you know, it's been privatized and it profits off of, you know, having as many people incarcerated as possible.
Absolutely.
So, but here's my question: is it's like we have now been painted as the side that's like just completely for everything that, you know, the criminal justice system stands for, because we don't want cops to be murdered.
Right.
Like, what do you have to say to those people, I guess, that are basically saying, like, let's completely ban the police, let's tear the whole system down? You know, what is your voice from a conservative? Instead, it's like, what's the better idea, if you have one? You know.
We can now, if we want to talk about police reform, I'm all for that conversation. But when you talk to these people, they're not talking about police reform.
Yeah,
they're talking about absolutely 100% disbanding the police. Okay, and we've seen what happens when you start, you know, defunding the police and or removing the police. All of a sudden, there's an uptick in crime.
Right.
There's a direct correlation. Okay. And it is really despicable. I mean, I try to have these conversations with people, and they don't have any good ideas other than defund the police. There's no good ideas to be had. There's no good conversations in this regard. It's just it's an on and off type of thing.
Right.
Defund them or defend them. You know, and if you want to defend them, you're the bad guy.
Yep.
I'm the bad guy for wanting law and order. I've never heard of such a preposterous ideology. You know. With more police presence, there is less crime. That's typically how it works. And where there's more crime, you want more police presence in those areas, in those crime-ridden areas. And that's one thing I don't understand with the black community. We're so against law enforcement and law and order when they're the ones that we need in these high crime-ridden areas. Right. That's what makes our neighborhoods safe.
Yeah.
And they, you know, they say, well, why aren't there all these police officers in the white areas? Well, if there's not a lot of crime in the white areas,
you don't have to enforce it.
You don't have to enforce it. That's a waste of resources. You know, we know that, you know, due to statistics, black men, about 6 to 7% of the population, commits over 50% of the violent crime. So you want more police resources in those urban areas where there's a lot of black men, because we understand what the problem is. So to deny that, it's just putting your head in the sand and acting like the problem's not really there.
Yep.
So we need more police presence. We need more police resources. You know, we need body cams for everybody. We need to hold them accountable if they do something wrong. Okay, I'm all for that. But I'm not going to say that they need to get gone. Yeah.
To me, what it seems like you're describing is the Democrats kind of causing the problem by creating this fatherless family system.
You got it.
And then crime results, not because of race, but because of fatherless families.
You got it.
And then they blame the symptom that they've caused on, I guess, the people enforcing it. And then to then try to like push more of their agenda on the populace, right?
Yeah.
And that seems really wicked. That seems like in Lord of the Rings, like the evil guy that was like whispering in the king's ear and like completely possessed him, right?
Yes.
Like, there's a spell that's being cast over the black community
Yeah.
for the votes.
Yeah.
what would you say to the black community that you feel like is under that spell? Like, is there any simple way to put it? I mean,
research.
Just do some research.
That's all it. You're a Democrat until you do research. I've noticed that. A lot of people I talk to, of all races, including a lot of black people, they'll tell me 100% unequivocally that they thought this, and that until they did their research. When I'm talking, I'm always at these rallies, right? And I'm going up against BLM head to head, right? And we're going at it. And I'm constantly throwing facts, stats, and data. They never do that. So it's like a shock to them that they're hearing these numbers, that 6 to 7% of the population is committing over 50% of the violent crime. There's a problem there. Okay, there's a problem. That has nothing to do with the police. Right? That has nothing to do with Trump. That has nothing to do with anything because that they think, because this has been going on for years. This has been going on since before Trump. This was going on before Obama, right? But it doesn't matter when they hear these facts, stats, and data. It's like they get so confused because they're not used to hearing it.
And they short out.
They do. It's like they wig out and they short out and they just shut down because they can't deal with it.
Or they say really mean things. I've been there. I have it on camera. Like this one woman was arguing with them. She's a black conservative woman. There's like 4 black conservatives I was standing with, and this white guy started just screaming at her that she was a coon. And we were like, we just like couldn't believe it.
What?
Yeah, it's like you're being racist.
You do realize that, right?
And then he's like, I'm not racist, and I don't remember what his logic was, probably because it didn't make sense. But it's like there's not some like certain, again with liberals, you can't like have this like moral relativism where it's like it's okay for me to be racist now,
right? It's okay to be racist against you because you're conservative, But if you're liberal, then it's weird.
Yeah, it's okay for Biden to be a racist.
Of course.
So okay,
of course.
I've been at these rallies with you, man, and like it upsets me when someone's screaming in my face. How do you remain so calm? Like you're a really cool cucumber.
I try to be. I try to be. And here's the way I look at it. Anyone can use these.
Yeah, they can.
Anyone.
Yeah.
Any dummy can use, and if you see it, a lot of the people who are fighting, a lot of BLM and Antifa, they're using this because they don't have this. That's all they have. This is all they have to rely on. So I know that when it comes to these people, I have this. So let me use this first. And I'm only going to use these if I'm trying to defend myself or others, and that becomes a better witness. These are not going to change the world.
They're not, yeah.
This is going to change the world. You look at Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Who's more celebrated? Martin Luther King, because he was all about peace and he was all about ideas and he was all about standing for your rights, but doing it in a peaceful manner in which you can't dispute that. You can't dispute that. Whereas Malcolm X, he was a bit more militant, so he's not remembered wasn't as effective as Martin Luther King. Now, don't get me wrong, if Martin Luther King was still alive today, he would be called a coon. He would be called an Uncle Tom. He would be called all those different things because he's not radical enough. Right? So, but to change hearts and minds, you have to actually talk about changing hearts and minds. You have to actually speak it and attack it with ideas. And that's the only way I know that I'm going to get to these people. So I have to remain cool, calm, and collect. Because if I start using this, then he's just going to be known as the big bully. MAGA Hulk is just a bully. You know what I'm saying? They call him Hulk because he's smashing everything. No, I'm smashing with this, not with this.
Sounds to me, though, like from what you're saying, when you see them getting mad, you realize that you are getting to them.
Yes,
you're
sir.
Winning the argument.
Yes, sir.
That's like, so you're at that point, you're like, I've won.
Yeah.
I'll remember that next time I get shouted at, because like there was a guy that was arrested. I don't even think you went over.
Yes, sir. I've seen that. Yes.
I got it on video.
Awesome.
But I mean, he was like being like, here's my IQ, here's my IQ, and then a cop went up and he's like, I'm gonna hit you, cop, and then it didn't work out.
Didn't work out so well for him. Nope.
It was pretty great, I gotta say.
Fantastic. That was great times.
That's good times. Okay, so I am curious about in your life, since you've kind of like come out openly, because I feel like it's like harder for people to come out as conservative as it was to be like come out as gay back in the day. What has it been like just in general from like the liberal community? Because in SoCal here, it's just like the religion. Everyone's a liberal.
Yeah.
Like what has it been like? What's have you had good and bad, or just mostly bad, or?
It's mostly good.
Oh, really? Okay.
But the bad sticks out like a sore thumb.
Okay.
Okay. Candace Owens had this wonderful skit, and it was like her coming out to her parents, like a black conservative coming out to her black liberal parents that she's now conservative, right? So she comes in and she's like, hey, I'm gay, I'm lesbian, you know? And they're like, oh, that's good, that's fantastic, oh, that's all right, we support you. And she says, and I'm also conservative. They flip their lid, you know what I'm saying? In the skit, you know, it goes on, they argue, and at the very end it says, the mom, you know, or the father looks at her and says, hey, why can't you just be gay? You know what I'm saying?
It's like, stop there.
Just leave it at that. And I think that's exactly what's going on in this point in time. People look at us and they argue with us and they're like, man, I would much rather you be gay than be a conservative. What is this conservative nonsense? What and they get really ornery.
Yeah.
They get really ornery, and I try to explain to them, especially within the black community, because they can easily identify it with a little bit better. I tell them, hey, we were born and raised conservative.
Yep.
We love God.
Yep.
We're all about church. We're all about, you know, pro-life. Okay, we're all about self-responsibility and accountability, right? And I start naming off all these different things. I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess that is true. So when I have these conversations and get them to understand what it really is, you know, what it really boils down to, then they start to open up. Like if I take the politics out, I was like, okay, let's remove Trump, let's remove politics, let's talk about morals, okay? Then they start to understand, but for the most part, it's when they first see me with the MAGA hat, I wear this thing everywhere, right? They get very ornery, they get very upset. You know, those who knew me back in the day, they cursed me out. They cursed me out like a dog.
To your face?
Nope.
Yeah.
Online.
Always on the internet.
Always online.
Everyone's tough on the internet.
Oh, they're very tough. They're very tough.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
they won't
unbelievable.
say it to your face, though.
No, of course not.
Not like we would beat them up or something, but it's like, I just think if you don't have the respect to say it to someone's face, then don't be disrespectful online. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah.
But they have that screen, they have that buffer.
Yeah.
You know, and as long as they have that buffer, you know, same thing when we're out there with our American flags and our Trump flags, they drive by, they'll sit there in traffic. I've seen this happen so many times, and they'll just be looking and scowling. As soon as that light turns green, then they want to throw the birdie, you know what I'm saying, and keep it pushing. I'm like, goodness, why didn't you do that earlier? You thought I was going to come and approach you or something?
Well, that's because that's what they would do.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
They think, like, if I disagree with someone, I'm going to physically hurt them. And it's like, that's probably why they don't want us to have guns, because they can't be trusted with guns. So, back to it. You've lost friendships over
Big time.
this. Like, permanently, like, I don't want to be your friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Have you converted anybody? Have you, like, opened people's eyes?
There have been a number of people that it was pleasantly surprising to see some of these people get red-pilled due to my witness. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it makes me feel good because I know that I'm standing up for something that's right. It's like being a Christian.
Right.
You know, when you convert someone to, I mean, with being a Christian, you convert someone to Christianity, it's always a better feeling. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's nothing that tops that. But, you know, it's that feeling of converting someone and knowing that they're on the right side now. You know, especially when it comes to the right, because you know the right is all about morals.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about ethics.
Yeah.
You know, about a code that we typically try not to break. Whereas the left, it's just a free-for-all. It's whatever you feel is right. You know, that's why the left is always progressing to something that's always anti-God, anti-morals, you know, anti-fact. You know, that's what the left is all about. But I've lost many a person, many a friend, people that I mean, I thought we were cool.
Yeah,
I thought we were all right. You know, we would say, hey, we agree to disagree. But yet and still, you know, sly little remarks, sly little comments, sly little this. You know, I'm just like, wait a minute, where happened to that respect that we had for one another? Yeah. But it doesn't matter because I'm a conservative.
Right.
It's all out the window.
To me, like, you kind of actually see this as a spiritual battle that is
sir.
going on.
It's more so that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and as you're saying that, it's like I do realize that a lot of like what they say about the enemy, about how he just seeks to tear down and destroy, can't create anything for himself.
Nope.
That seems to me like what Democrats are doing right now.
Thank you.
Right? They don't really stand for anything. they just want to tear down everything that conservatism stands for, right? So is a lot of why you're being so strong and outspoken about this is you feel like you're following God's calling
You got
and doing it? Okay.
You got it. Like you said, all the devil knows how to do is pervert. He cannot create.
Right.
He can only pervert. All right? You look at what goes on in this world. We have men and we have women, okay? And they have interactions with each other. But then you have this group that says, no, you are no longer a man.
Right.
You're now whatever you want to be.
Yep.
They pervert that. You know, they're constantly perverting.
Yeah.
They cannot create. They don't implement anything that's actually beneficial for mankind or for our country. All they do is just pervert what's actually going on, switch it up and say, okay, now this is okay because we put our little twists and spin on things.
Yeah.
That's all they do.
Yeah. On a personal level, man, I literally, a lot of times at night, I think about the fact that this all seems like when they talk about like the New World Order and like the Bible talks about there'll be the Antichrist and stuff. I mean, a lot of what seems like it's going on is towards that world of an Antichrist, ruling and worshiping Lucifer.
Yeah.
And to me, it seems like I don't want to get into like end times eschatology, but it feels like we're kind of like starting to brush up against maybe the beginnings of it or something.
You got it.
Yeah,
and so got it.
So do you think that then perhaps the people on the left, the reason they maybe fall for the lie is that they're the people that don't have a strong moral base, in their life?
Absolutely.
Have you noticed that the people that tend to be the most outspoken against you are maybe your friends that don't go to church?
Absolutely. Usually you look at the left, they're more atheistic, agnostic. They are very, they're everything that is anti-God, anti the natural order of things. They don't have the morals. Right. I mean, you have the conversations with them and, here we are, we're trying to be kind. We're trying to be calm. We're trying to, show God's love. And they directly oppose that. They're always angry. They're always violent. All the things that Satan tries to use to destroy this world. Like you said, he's here to steal, kill, and destroy. As a result, here are these people constantly implementing all these different things that are tearing apart this world, this country. And then we have this side who's always trying to preserve. Conservatism, we're trying to preserve. Liberalism and progressivism, they're trying to create something else. Or they're trying to pervert it into something else. The same thing with the Constitution. The same thing, they were trying to make it a living, breathing document instead of a foundation that is to be built upon. Same thing with the Bible. They're trying to get rid of that because there's too much morals in the Bible. So, and we're trying to preserve that. They're taking that prayer out of schools. Okay, then now they're taking the God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. Under God, they're trying to take that out. They're trying to get rid of any semblance of God, any semblance of a higher being, any semblance of a loving God. And they're trying to get rid of order, as you see, trying to get rid of law enforcement, law and order. They want chaos to reign, which is what Satan's all about. He's all about chaos and division, whereas God tries to put it and heal and put things back together again. So you see, it's a clear line of good versus evil. And we're on the side of good trying to fight evil. And it's a spiritual battle as much as it is a political one.
It is. I feel like they've become one and the same now.
Oh, 100%.
There was always this like ambiguity of like this separation of church and state and whatnot. But it's like, and I think that's happened because the people pushing it really have a wicked agenda at the end of the day.
You got it. And
it's I feel also called by God to do this show, and that's why we're doing this. And it's like that's why I'm not like gonna back down. And I've received also a lot of really negative backlash, and I don't care because it's like would you either like at the end of your life stand up for what was right? Or have lived as a coward because you're worried about the repercussions of it. Because we know where that goes. If we don't stand up now, man, there's a psychologist I saw that used this analogy, and because he also worked in self-protection, and he said anytime somebody gets like accosted, where it's like a car pulls up, people have guns, they're like, get in right now, it's never better at the secondary location. It never improves. So you're better to fight and get shot and die than you are to get in the car. And he said, so right now on a global level with this, whatever's being pushed on us, if we don't stand up now, it will never get better.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that's
beautifully put.
Yeah, and that's what like really changed my mind to do this. So I guess on the spiritual level, I guess it's kind of like my last general question is, how, because I really don't know, how do we help the spiritual void in people that are like sort of being, they're believing this lie that's being told to them, that's making them weak to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea on how to like maybe speak to their hearts so they maybe see that there's a bigger truth that they're missing?
I think that ties back to being gentle and being kind, right? Showing that love of God, the love of Christ. Let His light shine through you. It's one thing, like I see a lot of these people, and they just get so riled up.
Yeah.
And I've honestly lately I've been seeing a lot of people on the right doing this too. BLM will be shouting, and they come up and
Get mad.
They get mad about it, and I do understand where it's coming from, because we've been shouted down for so long, we've been antagonized for so long. Now we're getting violently beaten and shot and things of this nature, like the gentleman from Patriots Prayer, who was shot in the head by Antifa, which is unbelievable, for doing nothing other than being a Trump supporter. So I understand people on the right getting fed up. At the same time, we're not going to win any people by being angry and fighting fire with fire, right? So we got to show the love of Christ. We got to show the love of God when it comes to dealing with these people. And they'll say, okay, they may not have heard one idea. They may have nothing registered that I may have said, but they see my demeanor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that speaks volumes as far as trying to convert people, because they start seeing, okay, this side is very angry. This side is full of vitriol. This side is full of anger and disdain. Whereas this side, they're full of love. They're full of compassion. They're full of sympathy. They're full of empathy. They're full of all these traits that I'm not full of.
Right.
I want to be more like that. I need to calm down. I'm seeing something in him that I'm not getting, and I want to be full of that. And they start, slowly but surely, they start finding themselves getting to a more moralistic ideology, and eventually, God shows up in their life in any number of ways, and they got that conversion.
I think that's a perfect answer. We have to lead by example.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 100% we do.
Yeah.
So, okay, to wrap it up, I'm just kind of curious as like, what is your prediction that's going to happen in November?
Man, I do believe Trump is going to win. I 100% believe that. I think that there's going to be a lot of stops that the Democrats are going to try to pull out to try to, I've heard of different articles, read different articles saying that it may take weeks or a week for the elections to fully be over and all the voids. Exactly. And once Trump emerges victorious, I think that there's going to be a violent explosion within the America. It's just going to, cities are going to burn. There's going to be a lot of lawlessness, but I think that Trump now will have the latitude to be able to, hey, National Guard, come in, squash this. Yeah. I'm not running for re-election. I can't run for re-election at this point. So, hey, come over here, squash this, law and order right now. So I think that it's going to be a couple nights of just mayhem, but I think it'll eventually
it'll subside.
It'll subside.
That rings true to me, and I think that is unfortunately exactly what's going to happen. But I think we'll get through it though, and then hopefully we have another strong candidate after Trump, and we continue this legacy that he's set forth. And I feel like we have some really good potential candidates. Yeah.
I really think that Trump started a new wave.
I do too.
Of conservatism. Right. There was the Bushes. We had the Bushes.
I think those were rhinos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So when Trump came into the game, even Reagan, I think he was a great president. I think he was wonderful in the things that he tried to implement. But he was soft. He was kind of a softer Republican.
Well, his VP was Bush, and it's very widely thought that was the person that tried to have him assassinated. But that's a whole. That's good. That's for a different time.
Yeah, that's another time.
Anyway, thanks for being here, bro. I really appreciate it. That was a great interview. I'm really just so thankful that you're out there, that you're standing for like what America represents, that you're a Christian voice in this time, and that you have the courage to do it. Because I think a lot of people agree with you, but like not as many people are, because it's like they will be fired now. Like that's as far as it's gone.
Yeah.
You can't even be conservative without like risking literal retribution that affects your life and economic impact and your ability to feed your kids, and that's wrong.
Yeah. That's terrible.
And so, someone like you, you know, being able to be vocal, like, has it affected your work?
Not at all. Not at all. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
Thank God for that. You know. So it's been a blessing. As a matter of fact, the people that I work with, my client and everything like that, they are actual Trump supporters.
Oh, that's great.
So it's even better.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, I think by you being as vocal as you are, it's giving a voice to people that can't be, and I think that's a really big thing, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So thanks for being on. Thanks for watching our live stream, and we will see you next time on Fake Checkers.